Orderbook Heatmap Guide. I'll be walking you through the settings, how to interpret the Orderbook Heatmap, as well as how you can use it for practical applications in your analysis and your trading. So with that being said, to open up the Orderbook Heatmap, you just click the glowing grid at the top right here, and you'll see bars begin to populate your price chart. What this models is the resting bids, which are below the current price, and the resting asks, which are above the current price, or offers. And keep in mind that this is just limit orders, right? When I say resting or passive liquidity, this refers to specifically limit orders waiting on the books to be filled. You'll notice also that there are different color intensities of liquidity that are shown. Darker colors pertain to smaller amounts of liquidity on the book, whereas brighter colors pertain to larger amounts of liquidity on the book. And you'll see that the amount of liquidity on the books is shown in the magnifier tool, which is this box that's following my cursor around. You can see the change over time at each price level within the magnifier's range of exactly how much Bitcoin is on the books on the Bitcoin futures order book for Binance order books. And the settings at the top right here, we'll go through them real quick. First, you have USD or coins. This will change the units that the magnifier shows you. So if I change this to dollars here, instead of seeing 900 Bitcoin on the book, or maybe it was 90, you'll see, yeah, it was definitely 900. You'll see $100 million, right? So someone really wants to get rid of their Bitcoin, or so it seems. Next up, you have the single or aggregated option. Single just will show you the Binance futures order book, versus the aggregation option will allow you to choose which exchanges you're aggregating, whether it's finance or it's all finance, excuse me, whether it's futures or spot markets or a combination of both, right? And you can save your settings and deselect all and select all if you want entire look at the market right now, which is an ambitious task for my computer. But we'll put it back on single before I break something. And you can also toggle the hyperliquid liquidation heat map with this setting here. So that'll include the hyperliquid order book. Next up, you have the intensity sliders. This will determine the lower threshold and the upper threshold for what is considered significant size on the order book. So as you can see, if I bring this upper threshold down, you'll see more orders pop up on the order book, because these were not previously considered to be substantial when the upper limit was here. Excuse me. And you can change the lower threshold just the same way, and your color legend, if you will, is shown by this stripe here, right, with lower values representing darker colors and higher values being the brighter colors. And then you also have three presets for higher sensitivity, default, and low sensitivity here. They're just quick and convenient. Next up, you have the heat map settings. So you can get into the Kiyotaka themes that are provided. I love the sunset theme. And then the intensity settings. This is the threshold, which is the lower slider here. You can see as I move that, it changes here. You can also just change it here. The ceiling is the upper threshold, 316 and 316. The min bound and the max bound is the extreme of this range. So if I bring this out to 10,000 Bitcoin, right? Oh, sorry for your eyes. If you're watching at night, you can see that now I can extend the ceiling to 10,000 Bitcoin, right? So you can see if anyone has that size on the book. Obviously, no. But, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there with it, but I digress. I love to meet them. But you can reset if you do some crazy stuff like me. Quick and easy reset, no problem. Next up, you have the magnifier enable and disable tool. So this will prevent the magnifier from coming up, or it'll allow it. And then you can hide heat map values or show them. So if I show heat map values and I zoom in, right, real close, you can see actually at every single tick how much Bitcoin's on the books, which is very, very cool, right? I don't know of many other tools which offer something that granular. This is more useful on lower time frames if you're scalping or something and you want to see the actual change of liquidity on the books. Then you'll get your live updates in real time, right? So for memory purposes, you can also just disable that, and that'll speed up the UI for you. And then finally, we have the sync order book depth button. This will add a great tool for confluence on your charts. Basically, this shows the same thing as your heat map, but it's modeled differently. And what I mean is the heat map shows the intent of passive participants over time, right? And it'll show you at what price level they're willing to participate. But the heat map, or sorry, the order book will show you how much intent there is and how it changes over time within a certain range, right? Right now it's 0 to 5% of current price. But this is great for visualizing the change in intent over time. And you can see as I zoom out, we've had some bottoming occur, local bottoms and local tops, right? And you can see that here. In this downtrend, we consolidate for a bit, and there's a fairly balanced section of both bid and ask on the order book, and price is indecisive at the time, because the reason why is because the liquidity is clustering tightly around price and restricting its movement. And then eventually the books thin towards the downside. Buyers are less willing to step in at these prices, and price ejects down, impulses down, and in search of buyers who are willing to participate. And you see this clustering of bids down here, right? And that is in confluence with this region here. So it's very important actually to use the heat map in combination with other tools. This is my opinion. The reason why is because limit orders, which are modeled on the heat map, can change at any time, right? It's very, very simple to remove a massive 10,000 Bitcoin bid from the order books if you have that size. And this is actually strategy that market makers and players with size especially, they deploy. And the majority of it is deployed algorithmically, because algorithms can act much faster than humans can, right? Unless you're a different breed. Now, therefore, because of that, so that act is called spoofing, right? When a seller shows their intent to sell, and if price comes close to it, they remove it. That's known as spoofing. They remove it because they don't want to sell the Bitcoin. They're just making it appear like they want to sell. And there's a lot of game theory. You can get really deep down the rabbit hole with different strategies for why people would spoof. But generally speaking, it is illegal in most jurisdictions, as well as the US. But since crypto is a global market, trading all the time, and it's decentralized, and a lot of it is hard to track relative to traditional finance. Spoofing does happen all the time. If you ever want to see it live, just watch a depth of market chart, or watch this chart, the heat map during the New York session. You'll see orders flashing. If you watch it on a low time frame, and you have the processing power to get real nice granular resolution, then you'll see it happen, right? And the market does react to these levels. So I say all that to say, use these things in the context of other tools that you understand. And that leads us to what kind of tools can you use this with, right? anything that tracks order flow, since this is tracking liquidity, and at the end of the day, you want to use it in confluence with things that will give you similar signal, but not the same signal, right? Because then that's not confluence, that's just bias. But something like that would be open interest. For example, if you pull open your open interest and you see that, maybe I'll get lucky here with a perfect example, but you'll see on the heat map that, maybe you're not using the order book depth, right? You'll see on the heat map that liquidity is clustering around price, right? And that might tell you that there's a good chance that price will range if these orders stay on the books, right? And actively restrict the movement of price. And on top of that, maybe you see that open interest is just going sideways, right? Well then, okay, maybe I want to deploy more mean reversion strategies on a lower time frame here in this market environment. And as soon as you notice that there's a significant change in the spread of the order book, not the bid-ask spread, but the distribution of liquidity on the order book, it starts to space out now as we bottom out here. And what you know when liquidity spaces out is that price is then allowed to run free. As the market searches for the next level of liquidity in an uptrend, it'll jump aggressively to it. And especially when liquidity spaces out here, you'll see that the market has volatile moves up. But if you're down here and you notice, okay, now we've stopped going sideways in open interest and there are positions opening, and liquidity is spacing out, and it looks like it basically, if you have CVD on as well, you can get the actual execution. Where is the buy pressure, right? If I just isolate Binance here, Binance, right? We'll just get just the standalone Binance CVD, right? But as we've bottomed out, say you're watching the market here on a low time frame, right? You're seeing open interest is now increasing. There's a cluster of resting liquidity below, right? So this may or may not be support if it stays, but we take what we have, as well as now CVD is starting to go up. Okay, you see that liquidity is starting to space out, so volatility can start happening, as well as open interest rising, as well as aggressors being on the, not, it's still negative, but it's going up, right? So it's less negative than before. So buyers are counteracting the pre-existing sell pressure from this downtrend. Okay, so now maybe within this context, you can look for long setups, right? Because now you have multiple factors in agreement that all tell a different side of the story, but they complement each other well, right? Some other things you can use in confluence with the heat maps are things like volume profiles, TPO charts are good. You can get a sense of the conviction of players. If you can see that price is staying in a region for a longer period of time, it's because there's more business being done there, right? And so that's another added layer of confluence if we're in something like a range where you're seeing liquidities clustering, and then we explode up, we leave that level, we break through a previous level of resistance, and the market retraces back to where the liquidity is. And if you dive deep into TPO charts, you can see that key levels can be identified, which may align with where you're seeing liquidity be placed, but also it'll allow you to form expectations of where you think liquidity might be placed, right? And if liquidity isn't placed there, but it makes sense for it to be, like it's a key level or something like that, like an all-time high, then that tells you something about the market, right? You would expect there to be sell-side liquidity at all-time highs, because you know, if it sets an all-time high, right, and then someone says, oh, this is the highest ever been, and then it wants to revisit, this is an all-time high, this is 116, but someone wants to sell at that high, that previous high, so they would put their resting offer here, and that's why you get liquidity sweeps to the upside, right? Because there's a gap in liquidity here, so price pressure is pushing up, and the all-time high or the previous high is retested, and you see that price will shoot up to find that liquidity, and then if there's a lack of continuation, it'll come back down, right? So this is a great tool for traders of all levels. It's not essential that you implement it into your workflow like any tool, but for those of you who are interested in liquidity dynamics and understanding how the market moves and why it moves the way it does, then this is a great tool for getting an understanding and peeling back the layers of the market that are available to all of us. So that concludes this guide. And with that being said, good luck and good trading.